E ho'i e ka u'i o ko ola Waihe'e. Oia I ua malu na pali. O kane e a ka ua a pua ke ai. Kahiko I ke oho o ka pala ie. Pa'i'a wale nui o ke ko'olau, the slimy fish of the windward side of Oahu, an octopus. Olalo no Eau, 1385. Within the Ko'olau Mountains, on the mokupuni of Oahu, following the mountain range to the moku of Ko'olau Poko, is the ahupua'a of Waihe'e, nestled between the ahupua'a of Kahalu'u and Ka'alaia. This wahi pana, or famous place, hails from the story of a mute man in pursuit of a voice. His name was Ke'aka'oku, or the shadow of Ku. He was told to travel to Kahiki and marry a woman there. Only then would his voice be restored. But during his travels, Ke'aka'oku encountered a giant he'e, or octopus. They fought, and Ke'aka'oku was victorious, throwing the body of the he'e to Kahalu'u. There, the slime from the he'e ran over the aina, and the area became known as Waihe'e. Waihe'e, octopus slime, slippery water, rushing water. Wai, water, kahawai, stream. Water comes in many different forms. In Waihe'e, the misty ua po'ai hale can be found creeping between the trees and houses in the wao kanaka, or realm of people. This rain could also be referred to as ua po'ai hala, the rain that creeps through the hala groves. Also common within Waihe'e is the ua a pua kea, mist-like, which resembles frost as it sits atop the trees. This rain can connect to the famous story of Hi'iaka I Kapoli o Pele. There are various retellings of this story, but one thing remains a constant about this particular section. Apua Kea was a beautiful woman who lived with her mother in Kailua, thought to be the most beautiful in all of Kailua. During her travels, Hi'iaka and her companion made their way through Kailua and heard stories of this beautiful woman. When Apua Kea heard that Hi'iaka was around, she dared to compare her beauty to the goddess and was then killed and turned into the rain that we know today as Apua Kea. For pre-contact Hawaiians, water was the richest resource one could have. There are various stories that show the importance of water. One of the most obvious connections being the naming of multitudes of aina, vai something. For example, Waihe'e, Waikiki, Wai'anai, Wai'alai, Waikane. The list could go on, and that is just the wahi on Oahu alone. One story that captures this mana'o perfectly is from He Mo'olelo no Kamapua'a, the stories of Kamapua'a. It tells of the time after his victory over Chief Olopana. With Oahu now under his rule, Kamapua'a was approached by a kahuna, Lonoa Wahi. He asked Kamapua'a if he could have some land, specifically asking for all the lands that had vai in their names. Kamapua'a agreed, much to his parents' dislike, and only gained the support of his grandmother and older siblings. The amount of land he had given away was huge, and each wahi contained the richest of all resources, water. Waihe'e, being one of these rich areas, was known for having one of the largest wetland kalo operations on the island of Oahu. It was accounted by Handy and Handy that terraces ran back into the valley for 1.5 miles and were fed by the streams of Waihe'e, Ha'amama, and Kalia. Soon after, missionaries arrived in Hawaii, and Waihe'e transitioned to sugarcane, rice, and pineapple farming. Due to the plentiful amount of water in the area and the marshlands below the valley, Waihe'e was a valuable asset. Still, to this day, families that live in Waihe'e continue to cultivate kalo, bringing back the traditions of the valley. Within the valley, among the rows and rows of kalo, an abundance of native plants make their presence known. Waihe'e natives range from ferns and vines to medicinal and food plants. For example, kupu-kupu, maile, uki-uki, kukui, and mamaki are among handfuls of other natives. Waihe'e, though, is widely populated with hala groves and old-growth ulu trees, hinting towards a past of master crafters, laymakers, and weavers. With the introduction of foreigners to the islands, many non-native species now dwell within the valley of Waihe'e, namely coffee, honohono grass, waidelia, and umbrella trees. The Waihe'e Valley Restoration Project is an example of what a native Hawaiian mesic forest can become with the dedicated efforts of conservationists and supportive landowners and partners. Waihe'e Valley sustains the lush scenery that it is known for because of these native plants. But without vai, many of these plants would have a harder time growing. Vai, water. Vai, rich. Waihe'e, octopus slime, slippery water. A stream, a valley, and ahupua, the life-sustaining resource for itself and for others. From the varying rains to rushing streams and bubbling springs flowing mauka to makai, Waihe'e is vai, rich in water, rich in resources, and rich in history and stories.